Good morning. I'm Eric Bettelheim, the founder and chief executive officer of Floresta, which is presenting to you today probably what is easily the oldest and most reliable clean technology in the world. We are not, however, mechanical engineers nor electrical engineers, but we are forestry engineers. Our core business is plantation forestry, and our core technology for dealing with climate change is photosynthesis. I think it's probably fair to say the pilot project on that technology has been the longest lasting in history. We basically develop plantations both for biomass energy production and for timber production. We are developing 200,000 hectares, 100,000 in each category, in 2 locations. And the impact of these plantations is substantially greater than simply storing carbon through photosynthesis in the plantations, because they're strategically located to protect millions of hectares of remaining intact tropical forests. The result is that we generate over 10 million, or we intend to generate over 10 million carbon credits a year from 3 categories, switching from diesel and coal to biomass energy on the one hand, afforestation and reforestation credits generated by growing trees, and so-called red credits from reducing deforestation and forest degradation. There are multiple additional impacts, particularly forest conservation, but also poverty alleviation, biodiversity protection, watershed protection, and increased rural employment in areas which desperately need it. Our 2 projects are are equally distant from London. One is in Aceh in Indonesia. Many of you will be familiar with that location from the tsunami. There we are seeking to protect 2.2 million hectares of the Loiser ecosystem, the last place on Earth where the iconic species of Sumatran tiger, elephant, rhino, and so on still exist in breeding populations. If this place goes, they are extinct. And in Acre, Brazil, which is very interesting for me as an American because it's going to be the first source of forest carbon credits, red credits, which will be admitted to the California state emissions trading system, which is the first compliance or mandatory trading system which will allow these credits. Our basic products are all in growing demand. Biomass pellet production and biomass energy production, as I'm sure you're all aware, is growing extremely rapidly, not least of all because of the mandatory requirements on EU power plants and the desperate shortage of plantation-grown wood to supply it, because plantations are generally grown only in response to demand, and this demand is relatively recent and very, very large in comparison to the supply. The second is timber production. Timber production, according to the UK government, is destined to increase 5 times between now and 2050, and the demand for wood fiber for a variety of purposes, paper, furniture production, building material, and so on, is growing extremely rapidly, particularly in Asia. And finally, forest carbon credits are the last to the game, but they are the fastest growing and now over 40% of the voluntary market. And with the advent of the California system, will become the largest sector of most carbon credits. Sorry, this seems to have gotten distorted in the translation, but in any case, we are at this point well past the planning stage. We are ready to implement both projects. And during the course of this year, we will acquire our first plantation in Aceh, and we've already started trial plantations in Acre in Brazil. So production of wood will begin in Aceh in 2 years' time, and production of wood and biomass in Brazil will proceed in 4 years' time. In the meantime, we expect to have very large quantities of carbon credits, particularly those being sold into California. We have already negotiated a very large transaction with a major U.S. energy company, U.S.-based energy company in California, which sees these credits as a very attractive alternative to industrial change as offsets. To date, we've raised $13 million. We've been in existence about 2.5 years, but based upon 15 years of my work in this sector. And we are now placing a 3rd round of equity of $10 million, $7 million of which will be used to acquire this existing plantation, and the balance to develop the plantation business in Brazil and to run the company to break even. I think it's fair to say that I'm unique in offering a biological form of technology, but this needs to be done on a commercial and landscape scale if it's to have the impact we need on climate change as well as on the developing industries in both countries. Thank you.
Thank you.